The Play Absolutely podcast with Dr. Sue Jennings and Dr. Andy Hickson.
Hello. Podcast 10. We have got to podcast 10. How you doing?
Oh, that's great to see you, Andy. Really, we've got to 10? That's pretty good, isn't it?
Well, it's better than most people. I think there's two metrics I've looked at. One is most new podcasts give up at episode 3. And then, I say most, and then almost all have gone before they get to episode 10. So we're at episode 10. We are currently beating most of them. Yeah. And still having fun. But why shouldn't we
Well,
have
that's the
fun
important thing, that we
on a
have fun
podcast
and that we play.
that's all about play? Yeah. And
Especially this time of the
whatever.
year, which is a very playful
Oh,
time of the year, don't forget.
yeah. Well, why? I know it's coming up to the holiday season. And we're in the UK at the moment. And the holiday season is, even though we're not Christians, we're celebrating Christmas. And we are in December, so it's the Christmas season. But strangely, isn't it? I mean, we've never been brought up as religious or Christians, but we still adopt and celebrate Christian celebrations like Christmas. But it's not just us, is it? I mean, that happens all over the world. We've been to China, Beijing, for example, Japan, Tokyo. Whenever I've been there, and I'm sure you've had similar experiences, their Christmas decorations, their Christmas celebrations are huge, even bigger than much of what you might see in London.
Oh, absolutely. It's the same in Singapore. When I was last there at Christmas time, the streets were absolutely jam-packed with people looking at these amazing lights. Street after street, not just one main street. Far, far more lavish than you found in London. But talking of Singapore, it also reminds me of an interesting adventure I had in Malaysia when I was doing my research. And I was
Okay.
staying in a government rest house. These are isolated bamboo houses where government officials used to stay, but they've been kept on. And there was
Okay.
only me there. And it was Christmas morning, and I'd woken up and I was having my breakfast, traditionally served to me by a Malay manager, and it was toast with sweetened condensed milk on it. So I remember it very
Ooh.
clearly. And I was sitting there having a cup of very, very sweet tea, which had also got sweetened condensed milk in it. And the manager
Right.
had disappeared. And I thought, yeah, well, I need to get going, surely. And he came back about an hour later, and he said, I know today is a special day for the lady, isn't it? And I smiled and said yes. And then he produced the most enormous bunch of wild orchids you've ever seen
Wow.
and said, Happy Christmas. And I just thought that
Oh.
was just such a lovely gesture that, being nothing himself to do with Christianity, being a very traditional Muslim person, but he realized that it should be a special day for me and gave me this present. I've always remembered that.
It's lovely. It is funny. That reminds me of a few years ago, I was in Nepal for Christmas and I was there with the family, and we didn't go there to celebrate Christmas because we don't celebrate Christmas, but we took the opportunity to have a lovely time in Nepal, and we stayed in Kathmandu. And yeah, it was great. But then on Christmas Eve, the manager of the hotel that we were staying in came up to me and said, "Can you please do me a favor? It won't take long." And I'm, yeah, like what? What do you need? And he said, we're celebrating, we're not Christians, but we're celebrating Christmas at home. And I'm teaching my children all about Father Christmas. Um, I've got a costume. Please, can you be Father Christmas? I'm like, okay. I didn't ask for a free hotel room or anything, but I said, yeah. And he took me in the car, took me to his house, just outside the house, gave me this Father Christmas costume. Boiling hot it was. And he gave me an armful of presents. And he said, okay, you need to go in. You must be Father Christmas, and you must give a message to tell my children to work hard. So, yeah, I'm fine. So dressed up as Father Christmas, went in, ho, 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 ho. Make sure you're good children, behave well, otherwise, blah, blah, blah. I gave them the presents, and apparently that was the highlight for them for many months. And
That's
but it's
lovely.
not the
I
first
didn't
time.
know about
Not the
that.
first time I've been asked to do that abroad.
Uh-huh.
Funny.
No,
Mm.
that's absolutely great.
Yes, it's all play to me. That was playful, a playful interaction, and it was just having a good time playing. And you
But
know
I'm
me,
also
I love
reminded
to play.
I'm also reminded about play that
Mm.
children say they want this and want that, and parents are wincing and thinking, can we actually buy this or buy that? And often on Christmas morning itself, it's the boxes that their children want to play in rather than what's inside them. And I've witnessed that
Well,
so
yeah,
often. There are ready-made
I've
things that children realise can't be playful.
well, absolutely. But on that point, I it's well-worn anecdote, isn't it? Where you hear about children enjoying the box that something's come in more than the thing it actually is. But
Mm.
I don't know how true that is.
No, I've seen
There's
it happen.
plenty of
Mm.
toys I've given my children, and the boxes are literally ripped apart to get to what they've got inside. I think
Mm.
maybe very young children, they can have fun in boxes when they don't fully understand what it is they've been given. Uh, but I mean, separate from that, I'm not sure I agree. But yeah, we got no
Well, I
proof
think
there.
some parents
Boxes.
will
Oh,
give
go on.
children. Okay,
Some parents will
but I
give
think some
children.
parents give children toys that are too old for them.
Right.
So the box ends up being more interesting because they don't actually quite fathom what the toy is about. Because
Okay.
it shows, but Andy, it shows that the parents themselves are longing to play again.
Right. So you think
How many
they
parents
bought
join
presents for their
in?
children, but it's for themselves.
Yes, and longing to get on with the model railway. The same as on the beach, you see dads longing to build the castle and the moat and
Hmm.
holding back because he realizes it should be the children doing it, but he actually wants to do that too.
Yeah, that's true.
We stop. We can't
Boxes that,
stop
I mean,
playing.
we can't stop playing, but just getting briefly back to boxes. I do know it's a thing, and it's a well-worn story that a lot of children like to play with boxes rather than the things. Uh, there's some of that, but what I did notice, because we've recently moved to a new house, and we have a lot of empty boxes. The amount of fun my children have had playing in those boxes. They become cars, they become slides, they become things to hide in. They're cutting them up, making sort of uh, houses for their toys and so on. They don't tire of that. And probably you could suggest that they play with those boxes more than some of their toys. But partially, I think it's because they can they're sort of left to do what they want with the box. If they damage it, if they cut it, if they color it in, they're not going to get told off for breaking something or ruining something. So, you're pretty safe to give an empty box to a child and think, if they mess it up, I'm not going to be too upset. Whereas if you give them, something that's cost a lot of money, you maybe want to supervise them a
Well,
little bit
I'd like
more.
to add to that
Yeah,
I'd like to add
go
the
on.
fact that the box for many children can become the safe place. So I always
Yeah.
advocate in kindergartens and reception classes that at least, if not older, that teachers have 2 or 3 boxes in the classroom where an anxious
Yeah.
child can go and hide if they need to. So a box in the classroom becomes a safe place for an anxious child, because
Like
anxiety
even more so than a cupboard.
amongst children is getting younger and younger.
Really? Is
People
there
aren't tackling the
statistics to show that?
anxiety, they're often medicating it instead,
Right. I mean, I know obviously there's a lot of uh, wars, conflicts going on, so there are a lot of children suffering through wars and conflict around the world. We know that. But in terms of, let's take the UK where we currently are, uh, you think that there's a high percentage of children that have mental health issues, difficulties, and they're
Oh, indeed.
hiding in boxes?
Hmm. I think providing boxes to try and lessen children's anxiety in a classroom or in a therapy room or in a recreation place,
Mm,
wherever, is one way
mm,
of providing a safe place. Another can be a desk that's
okay.
got a couple of cloths over it where a child can hide underneath. But it's very
So,
interesting observing that dynamic of the anxious child, because if it's
mm,
not tackled in some way, they end up not wanting to go to school. So that becomes a secondary issue to the anxiety. Whereas if we could all
mm.
recognize that for many children post-COVID, going to school is an anxious activity.
You can just see the headlines, though, can't you? In the national papers, schools now are prescribing cardboard boxes for their students. Come and have a look at this class. All the children are hiding in their boxes. They've cut out little holes so that they can listen to the teacher and participate. I mean, some of the press would have a field day with that if they thought that we were filling up children's or filling up schools with cardboard boxes for kids to
Yeah,
hide in
and you
and
can
have their lessons.
immediately think about 2 or 3 cartoons that might come out of that as well.
Yeah,
But you see,
but
this is because certain types of newspaper are completely keyed into the fact that children ought to sit still in rows and listen to the teacher. That's what going to school
okay.
means. And as we've
But
discussed
I
on the
just
podcast
it's
before,
even for the most forward-thinking teacher, uh, for the most creative teacher, even me, I'm struggling now. If I was a teacher, and if my head came to me and says, "Right, today you're going to teach your students, everyone must be in a cardboard box." So you imagine rows of children in cardboard boxes with little holes, and even the teacher themselves, maybe they're in a cardboard box as well. I I mean, how I mean the kids would love it in the beginning, I'm sure. But how would that teacher focus those children having fun in their cardboard boxes?
though mind you, if it was a drama class, that'd be exactly what the teacher might be
Uh,
doing. All the desks
yeah.
would be cleared away, a nice big space. What are we going to build with our boxes? Where are we going to go? Yes, okay, we're going
Mm.
on a ship. Where are we going to sail to?
It
And what
reminds
would
me of
the
a
child the child will be
no,
learning
yeah.
to use their
I'm just it
imagination.
reminds me of of one of my favorite authors. We mentioned Japan, a Japanese author, Abi Kobo, actually has a book called The Box Man, and it's about a man that lives in a box. It's not like a homeless person just sleeping in the box. He actually has holes cut out, and he moves around in the box, observes the world. And what we get, one of the things we get from this book is that he's hiding. He's hiding from the world. He can't deal with people. The only way he can survive in the world is through this cardboard box. And we go on journeys where people are trying to take the cardboard box from him and so on, and the struggles that incur. So what I'm immediately thinking of when you're suggesting cardboard boxes is that if we ran lessons, if we gave children the opportunity to, you can either sit at a desk for this lesson, or you can sit in that cardboard box over there. Isn't that, aren't you giving them a sort of the excuse to hide away, to not socialize with the other children? It's kind of, you're isolating yourself, aren't you, if you're hiding away in a cardboard box?
Yeah. But I think every child would choose feeling safe over everything else.
Right.
If we tackled the issue in schools of children feeling unsafe for many reasons, maybe there's bullying at school, maybe there's domestic violence at home, maybe even the early attachment didn't work out in the family, whatever it is, a child displays behavior that shows they don't feel safe. So if we can provide a means of every child, should they so choose, to feel at least safer than feeling exposed in the classroom, we move on from there.
I don't
And you can see that.
disagree. I'm just saying,
Okay.
I don't disagree that we should be allowed to feel safe. What concerns me with that fantasy, I mean, it's not going to happen. We know that. There's no school that would survive, even local press, if they taught in cardboard boxes. But even the idea of that is, I can see it working for an activity. Right, a short activity. We're going to do some cardboard box play, maybe. There's a new thing for NDP, cardboard box play. But if people are suffering bullying or difficulties, yes, find ways to help them be safe, but also at the same time, maybe even more than the safety is building up that resilience in them, so that giving the opportunity just to hide away from the conflict. It's not allowing them to develop their resilience and their coping mechanisms and their strength and their courage, their confidence, and so on, because they're hiding away. I can, safe, yes, in an activity, but do you see what I mean? Resilience.
Yes, but no one's going to leave children in cardboard boxes for days or even hours on end. It's a refuge. It's a hideaway. And it's the same principle that operates because children love playing hide and seek so much. The real reason most children want to play hide and seek is because they want to be found. Not that they want to hide. They want to be seen. And I think this goes together with beginning to feel safe again, that someone actually sees you and who you are and remembers your name and remembers that you really don't like Brussels sprouts at lunch break and so on. Too often, children will talk about feeling invisible. And, there's that wonderful story by Tove Jansson called The Invisible Child. And it's all about the child who was living with an aunt who was so sarcastic to her. In the end, she disappeared. So the aunt tied a bell round her neck so she would always know where she was. And the invisible child was
disappeared or
brought
became
to this
invisible?
family. Sorry?
Did you say disappeared or became invisible?
Well, either way, couldn't be seen.
Okay.
So the carer in the situation brought the child to the Moomin family, where slowly, as she became accepted by this family, became visible again. a little bit at a time. So anyone that hasn't read that story, it's a wonderful story about what happens to a child that isn't nurtured. They become invisible, they're not seen, and it
Yeah.
takes time to bring them back again.
Mm. Yes. I mean, maybe my thoughts on cardboard boxes is partly about, you know, adults. I'm an adult trying to control children's play. We in the last episode we talked about uncontrolled play, no, unconstrained play, uh, free play. Uh, but yes, I mean, even thinking about, yeah, my children, they do play in cardboard boxes when they're available. Often, if we've got a delivery of something, the cardboard box is left to one side. One of them will get in that box and play with it, draw on it until it's discarded. But and it's not a negative thing. It's all positive, isn't it? Because they're not, certainly my children, they're not hiding away in the boxes. There's plenty of places to hide in the house. And I'm thinking of potentially more negative things. Now, if I look at myself, when I'm a man of peace, I don't like violence. I'll always try and find ways to deal with violence or violent people in peaceful ways. But I do remember as a child, I liked guns. I had toy guns that I would fire, even little plastic bullets and so on, catapults, made bows and arrows. I mean, there's plenty of weapons, sticks for swords and so on. We hear, particularly sort of coming out of America, where children often grow up with guns, real guns in the house. Um, we often, people often will say that if children grow up with guns, toy guns, real guns, that will turn them into violent people, uh, mass murderers, and so on and so on. It didn't happen with me, uh, but me, when I'm bringing up my children, I'm still loath to have any toy guns or toy weapons in the house. And I'm wondering how my thought process are working here, because I'm doing something different than what I grew up with. It's I think what I'm trying to get at is that having access to toy weapons doesn't necessarily mean that somebody's going to grow up violent. It depends how you play with those with the child, and what other influences, I suppose, you bring to that relationship, that play, and so on.
Mm, mm. Well, I could just illustrate that as well. I was in a market town in Romania and having a cup of coffee, and there was a huge toy stall in the market.
Hmm.
And I noticed a man in military uniform bringing a small child with him to choose a toy. And the child was probably about 3 to 4 years old. And the child chose a pink fluffy rabbit. And there was Dad shaking his head and saying, "No, no, no," and getting down off the shelf, a combat soldier lying on its stomach that you could wind up. And the soldier crept forward with a gun at the ready to shoot it. And the
Hmm.
child started crying and saying, "No, no," he wanted the rabbit. And Dad saying, "No, no, you're having this." And I think that, in a simplistic way, illustrates that conflict, because it's also to do with what
Hmm.
the child themselves want. And the child didn't want the
Yes.
wind-up soldier that shot people.
Yes. I mean, it's funny. It's often a conflict when I'm exploring violence in schools when I visit. There's often talk of violent toys versus non-violent toys, or
Mm,
violence versus self-defense. So
mm,
thinking about without adult supervision, violent toys can develop into maybe thoughts of violence. But then let's take the example of martial arts, like a karate club, a kung fu club,
Mm,
where you might go and do some training in martial arts, which are seen as violent, particularly, when you've got things like the Ultimate Fighter and the UFC and so on, where people are trying to really hurt each other. Uh,
mm,
Generally, the martial arts have a really peaceful philosophy, and when you go through that training, you learn the peaceful philosophy, and you learn that it's about self-defense. It's not about using it to
mm.
attack or bully other people. And so I was sort of thinking to myself, okay, what if one of my children said they wanted to go to a gun club and start practicing firing guns and so on. Now, for me,
Mm,
and haven't fully thought it through, I think I'd probably have a problem with that. I'd have an issue with
mm,
that. But if they said to me, I'd like to take up fencing, that kind of sword fighting, traditional
mm,
fencing, I would probably be okay with that. And I'm trying to work out in my mind why I would be okay with that. And
mhm.
all I can think of is that I would associate fencing more with a martial art, and you're sticking within the rules of
Yes, and
a
it's a
fencing
sport.
game.
Mm.
But shooting guns can be a sport as well.
But you don't
So
have a
yeah, I mean,
setup
I'm
where
struggling with that. If I'm honest, I do
mm,
struggle with that as why I would be okay with
yeah,
one and why I would not be okay with the
mm.
other.
No, I agree completely. But for me, the difference is that two fencers, you can't really fence without a partner. So two fencers sticking to the
Right.
rules get to a point where you can score a point because you actually touch somebody or avoid being touched.
But it is a
Whereas,
simulated stabbing of them, though, isn't
mm,
it?
but it's never ever a stab for real, and the tips of the swords are protected and so on.
Hmm.
Now, with guns, you don't necessarily have a partner. You have a target where you practice shooting to
Target,
try and
yeah.
get a bullseye, like with darts.
Mm,
And
mm,
if you did use the gun outside of that situation against somebody, it would likely to result in a death or serious injury.
mhm.
So I don't think gunfighting, in my view, translates into a sport, and certainly not a
Well, it is a
martial art.
sport. There's lots of gun sports or sports that involve guns, and not just purely guns. I mean, it's like that cross country skiing. Can't remember exactly what it's called, but where they do some skiing and then they stop and they fire at targets, a rifle that they carry on their back, and they do some. I mean, that's an Olympic sport.
Mm.
Silence in the room.
Every
It's
step
tough.
becomes contentious, doesn't it?
Well, it does, and I think a lot of people are confused, and there's
Mm.
arguments on both ways. If we were talking to Joe Rogan, I'm sure I'll speak for him because he's not here. He would say absolutely nothing wrong with owning a gun, with learning how to use a gun, with martial arts, learning how to defend yourself, and so on. And I think most of that I would tend to agree with. What I think what I think the issue is for me is that if you're going to use or justify gun ownership and gun play, it's it's how the parents maybe sensationalize that, or how children might become desensitized to it, so that even on video games you're shooting, killing lots of people, and there's no real issue. You're not going to be sent to jail or anything, and you're not going to upset anybody if you kill somebody in a online video game. But
Mm.
if you get totally desensitized to that killing, to that blood, to that violence, could that then lead on into real life violence? You know, is it about being able to separate the play from the real life? And that's some of what the issue is, because we did
And
talk,
this
didn't
is
we? Sorry,
crucial.
I know you want to say something. Let me just finish this bit. Is that part of our philosophy on play is that it teaches you about life. It gives you a good grounding for life. You learn skills and so on for life. So that's true of the negative or potential negatives, like playing with guns. Is playing with guns is going to give you skills for real life, which might end up being negative. You can come in now.
Yes, I think that is a dilemma that people have, which at the end of the day, defined through neurodramatic play, is when we talk about everyday reality and let's pretend reality. I mean, the
I mean, most
child's
children.
imagination. Sorry? I
No, I
didn't
was
hear
just
what
saying
you said.
most children can tell the difference between uh, play and reality, fantasy and reality.
Well, the imagination doesn't even begin to develop until 6 or 8 months old anyway. And a
Okay.
lot will depend on the influence around the child at that age, that how much is the let's pretend storytelling and how much is the real, possibly domestic violence type of storytelling going on around them.
Okay.
So a child's perception at a very early age is influenced by their surroundings of what they perceive as pretend or for real.
Okay.
And when violence is for real, which is in domestic violence, the child is
Mm.
growing up with some notion that this is a norm, which makes subsequent expression through play very difficult for them because they're never quite
Mm.
sure what they're doing is for real or let's pretend.
So mixing up fantasy and reality. Okay.
Mm.
Can I give you a scenario, and let's see
Mm-hmm.
if I'm sure the scenario I'm going to give is maybe a dilemma that some parents face. So let's see if your answer will help them. Okay. So you got a parent.
Okay.
They've got a child. Let's say they've got a 10-year-old who is, I don't know, beating up a lot of the time their sibling, but it's playful. They're just over playful. They make use of sticks as swords, and they go overboard, and they're really prodding, poking, hurting,
Mm.
and the parent is trying to take any kind of what they see as weapons out. But the child just loves play weapons. They want the weapons, they want the guns, the toy guns, and so on and so on. The parent can't deal with it. So they come to see you for a neurodramatic play session. Sue, my son is really violent, is always hurting his younger sibling, and is obsessed with guns and violence and so on. What can I do?
Well, it may surprise people, but the first thing I would want to find out was, are the siblings older or younger or both? And
Okay.
how close in age is the child being violent to the younger sibling? Because it could be we're addressing an attachment issue all the things that happen when the new baby comes along, and the youngest child at that point doesn't get enough nurture. So,
Okay.
and if their needs aren't listened to, they get more and more and more violent. So by the age of 10, because we remember all behavior is communication. So rather than saying, how do I stop this violence? The first question is, why and what is this violence about?
Okay.
That's my first question. A common reaction in terms of NDP practice to that type of situation is to find ways to take the child right back to early development when those two essential ingredients of rhythm, play, and messy play get established, and allow them to renegotiate those stages of play. Because following on those is very much the development of the imagination, the let's pretend play. And I would instigate a rule in the playroom that we can play whatever we want, but there's no physical touching. So we might pretend to box, but it's shadow boxing. It's not boxing for real. We might pretend we've got a sword, fine. But again, we don't touch the other person. If it's one-to-one therapy or one-to-one play, it's me. Okay, I'll have a stick as well if you want me to, but you don't actually touch me. Because what's significant for the 10-year-old is that everything they're trying to do through whatever means is to literally touch people. So we have to ask the question, it might be way out, but at least we need to ask it. Was there never enough touching when they were small? That they're trying to recreate. And if it's not loving touch, it can be violent touch. It's still touch.
Yeah, this is very deep. This is very deep, and obviously we haven't got time for a full-on session, even an improvised session. But that might be interesting to do one day. Well, let's see if we get any of our viewers that want something like that. They can say it in the comments below, can't they? Okay.
Indeed.
Okay. So, any playful activities or experiences that you've had since our last pod that you'd like to mention to the viewers?
Oh, it's funny you should ask that. I was thinking about gift giving for grandchildren and so on. And I lurk in toy shops anyway, because maybe there's something I would like for my playroom. And there was a 7-year-old with an older woman, presumably his mum, and I was nearby. I could hear her say, "So which of the soldiers would you like?" And the boy pointed to soldiers with rifles, standing at attention, or there was some that were marching. And he said those, and she said, "No, dear, you don't want those. Look at these ones." And 3 shelves down were some medieval soldiers in beautiful costumes and riding with swords or jousting. And he said, no, they're not real soldiers. You see, again, it got back to this reality thing. He identified the other soldiers, because obviously you've seen soldiers marching on television. You might even see it in person if you live near a barracks. And he wanted the real soldiers. And this little battle went on with Mum saying, "Oh no, dear, come on. These are lovely soldiers." And she would pick one up and say, "Look at it, beautiful." And he was saying, "No." And it was this total miscommunication. And if he's not allowed combat soldiers, why say choose what soldier you'd like?
Well, that's the issue, isn't it? I think, yes.
Yeah. You give somebody a choice and then take it away.
Yeah.
So
yes.
that's something I've seen since we last met.
Okay. Me, I have Well, I, I I don't know why was I sort of arguing against you in the box thing, because uh, one experience with one of my children this week actually is I bought something. I won't say what it is because it's a present, Christmas present, but I left the empty box in the lounge, and when I next popped in the lounge, my youngest was in the box going, brum, brum, brum. Do you like my car, Daddy? Look, I've drawn the steering wheel and so on and so on. So, yeah, she was having great fun in that. But it soon got ripped and is now packed away, ready for the bin men. Right,
Mm.
that's, well, it's the end. I'm conscious of time.
Okay.
So, do you want to say a last minute word to our viewers?
Indeed. You know, even if the festive time gets stressful, don't forget to play.
Yes, we will have a festive version, I think, of Play Absolutely podcast, but that won't be in this one. Maybe not even the next one, but we'll see. And yeah, I will echo. Don't forget to play. Yeah, and also if you've enjoyed this, if you've enjoyed, please give us a like and subscribe to the channel. And we'll see you in the next one. The next one being podcast 11. Okay.
11.
Ciao for now.
Wow.
Bye.
Bye.